My coffee went cold in my hand as I stared across the parking lot. There, stepping out of a shiny black SUV with temporary tags still in the window, was Vanessa Cole. The same Vanessa who'd cried in my arms exactly 1 week ago, begging for money to avoid eviction. The same Vanessa who'd promised to pay me back the $2,500 I'd scraped from my rent savings. She tossed her designer purse over her shoulder and clicked the key fob. The SUV chirped and flashed its lights like it was showing off. My stomach twisted into a knot. I walked toward her, my legs moving before my brain could stop them. "Vanessa," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. She turned, her face lighting up with that practiced smile she always wore. "Emily." "Hey, girl." I gestured at the car. "That's new." She laughed, waving her hand dismissively. "Oh, this? It's just a lease. You wouldn't understand." The words hit me like a slap. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Jordan, our manager, and 2 other coworkers had stopped to admire Vanessa's new ride. My face burned with humiliation. That night, my phone buzzed with a calendar alert, Vanessa's repayment date, today. The next morning, I approached Vanessa's desk with my heart pounding. She was scrolling through her phone, laughing at something on the screen. "Hey, Vanessa," I said softly. "Do you have a minute?" She looked up, her smile fading slightly. "What's up?" I swallowed hard. "I just wanted to check in about the money." "Today was the date you said, seriously, Emily?" She rolled her eyes, loud enough for nearby desks to hear. "You're really pressed about a few $1,000s? Relax." Jordan walked past at that exact moment. He paused, glancing between us. "Everything okay, here?" Vanessa sighed dramatically. "Emily's just being a little intense about something personal." The way she said it made me sound petty, obsessive. Jordan gave me a look that said let it go, then walked away. I stood there, feeling small and foolish. I didn't push further. But my gut told me this wasn't over. That night, I checked Instagram. Vanessa had posted a photo 2 hours earlier, her, posing with a champagne glass, leaning against her new SUV. The caption read, #new car who dis. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying the conversation, the dismissive laugh, the champagne photo. But then I remembered how this whole thing started. It was 2 months ago, in the break room. I'd walked in to refill my coffee and found Vanessa sobbing into her hands. Her mascara ran down her cheeks in black streaks. "Vanessa, what's wrong?" I'd asked, sitting beside her. She looked up, her voice shaking. "My landlord is evicting me, Emily. I'm 2 months behind on rent, and I have nowhere to go." My heart broke for her. "How much do you need?" $2,500, she whispered. "But I know that's a lot." "I don't expect, I can help," I said, before I could overthink it. That afternoon, I transferred the money from my savings account. The same savings I'd been building to cover my own rent. She'd hugged me tightly, promising to pay me back in 4 weeks. The next day, Lisa, my closest coworker, had pulled me aside. "Emily," she'd said carefully, "you do realize she pulled the same thing on a temp last year, right?" I started noticing things I'd been too kind to see before. In the weeks after I'd given Vanessa the money, she'd shown up with a new designer handbag. Then new boots. Then lunch at expensive restaurants downtown. I'd brushed it off, telling myself maybe she'd gotten a side gig or a bonus. But now, with the SUV gleaming in the parking lot every morning, the pieces didn't fit. One afternoon, I worked up the courage to go to HR. Dana, the HR representative, greeted me with a polite smile. "How can I help you, Emily?" I wanted to ask, have there been any reports about coworkers borrowing money and not paying it back? Dana's smile tightened. "Emily, I can't discuss other employees. But I'd advise you to avoid personal financial disputes at work. It complicates things." My stomach sank. Right. Of course. As I left her office, my phone buzzed. An email notification. I opened it absently, then froze. It was a reply all thread about a team project. Vanessa had accidentally copied me on a side message to Jordan. Emily thinks she's my personal bank. Office charity case much? The team lunch was at a busy Italian restaurant downtown. The whole department crowded around a long table, passing bread baskets and laughing over shared appetizers. I sat near the end, quiet, picking at my salad. Vanessa was at the center, as always, holding court. Then she raised her glass of wine and grinned. I just want to toast my amazing coworkers. Especially Emily, my little sponsor. Everyone laughed. My cheeks burned hot. A few people glanced at me, amused, like I was in on the joke. But I wasn't. I forced a smile and looked down at my plate. My hands were shaking. Jordan chuckled and clinked his glass against Vanessa's. Nobody seemed to notice the humiliation on my face. That night, lying in bed, I opened the payment reminder app I'd set up weeks ago. It tracked when Vanessa opened notifications about the loan. The last time she'd opened it? 3 weeks ago. She'd been ignoring every single reminder since. I stared at the ceiling, replaying her toast in my mind. My little sponsor. Something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to let this go. I decided to confront her privately. I caught Vanessa alone in the supply room, restocking printer paper. Vanessa, we need to talk. She didn't even look at me. About the money. You said 4 weeks. It's been over 2 months. She sighed and turned to face me, arms crossed. I said I'll pay you back when I can. Maybe stop counting my blessings, Emily. It's not a good look. Her tone had turned cold, almost threatening. Are you seriously going to make this a thing? I felt my voice waver. I just need to know when I'm ready, she snapped. And if you keep pushing, you might make things difficult for yourself around here. The words hung in the air like a warning. She brushed past me and walked out. The next morning, Jordan called me into his office. Emily, we need to schedule a performance review. I blinked. A performance review? But those aren't until next quarter. He shifted uncomfortably. There have been some concerns. We'll talk more next week. My heart sank. Vanessa had already started her campaign. The performance review felt like an ambush. Jordan sat across from me with a printed document, his expression serious. Emily, I've noticed your attitude has changed recently. You seem distracted, tense. I stared at him. My work hasn't changed. Maybe not the output, he said carefully. But Vanessa mentioned she feels uncomfortable around you. There it was. She'd gotten to him first. She was painting me as the problem before I could even defend myself. Jordan, that's not fair. There's context you don't. I'm not here to mediate personal issues, he interrupted. I'm just saying, keep it professional. I left his office feeling trapped. That afternoon, Lisa caught me in the hallway. She glanced around, then whispered urgently, Emily, you need to start keeping records. Everything. Texts, emails, dates. If she's setting you up, you need proof. I nodded slowly. Lisa was right. From that moment on, I started documenting everything. Every message. Every interaction. Every lie. I went through my phone that night, screenshots lighting up my screen one after another. Text messages from Vanessa, clear as day, I promise I'll pay you back by the end of the month. You're a lifesaver, Em. Another one, 2 weeks later, just need a little more time, but I swear by next Friday. Next Friday had come and gone. I saved every screenshot to a folder on my laptop labeled receipts. Then I remembered something. Vanessa had submitted an expense report a few weeks ago for a team dinner. I pulled up the shared finance folder at work and scrolled through her reports. There it was. A receipt from a luxury steakhouse downtown, dated the same night she'd cried to me about her eviction. The total? $312. The memo? Client entertainment. But we didn't have any clients in town that week. I printed the report and added it to my folder. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt calm, focused. She thought I was soft. She thought I'd just let this go. She was wrong. A few days later, I was organizing files on our shared drive for an upcoming project when I stumbled across something I wasn't supposed to see. An internal email thread between Vanessa and Jordan. The subject line read, Client Proposal, Final Draft. I clicked it open. The proposal was mine. Word for word. The strategy, the graphics, the tagline I'd spent weeks perfecting. But Vanessa's name was listed as the primary author. My name wasn't mentioned at all. I scrolled through the email chain. Jordan had praised her, great work, Vanessa. This is exactly what the client needs. She'd responded, thanks. I really wanted to bring something fresh to the table. I sat back in my chair, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. She hadn't just stolen my money. She'd stolen my work. I clicked print. The pages came out slowly, one by one, and I slipped them into my bag. That night, I stored them in a locked drawer at home, next to the expense reports and the text message screenshots. I was building a case. The staff meeting started like any other. Coffee, laptops, the low hum of small talk. Then Jordan stood up and introduced the client presentation. Vanessa has been working hard on this proposal, he said, gesturing to her. She'll walk us through it now. I felt my stomach twist. Vanessa stood, confident and smiling, and began presenting my work. Slide by slide, she delivered my ideas as if they were hers. But then the client, a sharp woman named Sandra, leaned forward. I love the strategy, Sandra said. But can you walk me through how you arrived at the demographic targeting? Vanessa hesitated. Well, it's based on market trends and, specifically? Sandra pressed. Vanessa fumbled. Her confidence flickered. I didn't plan to speak. But the silence stretched too long. The demographic targeting is based on a three-phase behavioral analysis, I said calmly. We cross-reference purchase history with social engagement patterns. Sandra's eyes lit up. Exactly. That's what I wanted to hear. The room shifted. People looked at me, then at Vanessa. Jordan's face tightened. Vanessa sat down, her jaw clenched. Applause followed, but Vanessa's glare across the table could have cut through steel. 2 days later, I arrived at work to find chaos. My project files were gone. Every document I'd worked on for weeks had vanished from the shared drive. I clicked through folders frantically, my heart racing. Nothing. Jordan called me into his office. Emily, we have a problem. The client files are missing, and they were under your login. I didn't delete them, I said quickly. Someone else, HR is calling this careless file management, he said. This is serious. I felt panic rising in my chest. But then I remembered something. I'd backed up everything to my personal drive. Every version, every edit, every timestamp. That night, I logged into my backup and exhaled slowly. It was all still there. Every file, timestamped and intact. I sent the full archive directly to Dana in HR, with a detailed message explaining what had happened. The next morning, Vanessa was called into HR. When she came out, her face was drained of color. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I was making coffee in the break room when I heard her voice. Vanessa was in the restroom next door, and the walls were thin. She was on the phone, her voice tight with panic. If she talks, I'm screwed, she hissed. They're asking questions. They have emails, timestamps, everything. A pause. I don't know. She's been so quiet, I didn't think she'd actually, her voice cracked. I stood there, frozen, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. For the first time, Vanessa sounded afraid. I walked back to my desk and sat down. My hands were steady. I opened my email and saw a new message from Dana. Please keep everything you've documented. We may need it for our review. I replied with one word, understood. The quiet counterattack had begun. And I was just getting started. The office felt different now. People were starting to notice cracks in Vanessa's perfect image. Lisa had quietly been talking to a few coworkers, asking careful questions. Did Vanessa ever borrow money from you? Did she take credit for your work? Slowly, the whisper network started to spread. I didn't have to say a word. The truth was moving on its own. One afternoon, an email went out to the entire team. The subject line was vague, anonymous ethics complaint under review. It didn't name anyone. But the timing was obvious. Vanessa read it at her desk, her face going pale. She glanced around the room, paranoid, trying to figure out who had reported her. I kept my eyes on my screen. That night, Ethan, my boyfriend, asked me how I was holding up. I'm okay, I said. I just keep thinking about how many people she's done this to. You're doing the right thing, he said, squeezing my hand. I nodded. But part of me still felt uneasy. I wasn't the kind of person who wanted revenge. I just wanted justice. I decided to ask her one last time. I found Vanessa in the break room, pouring herself a coffee. Jordan was nearby, sorting through papers. Vanessa, I said quietly. Can we please talk about the $2,500? She turned to me, her face twisting with irritation. Oh my God, Emily. You'll never see that money again, sweetie. The room went completely silent. Jordan looked up sharply. A few coworkers nearby froze mid-conversation. Vanessa seemed to realize what she'd said, but it was too late. She grabbed her coffee and stormed out. Jordan stared after her, his jaw tight. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. An email from Dana. Emily, please come to my office tomorrow morning. We need to talk about Vanessa. I closed my laptop, exhaled slowly, and allowed myself the smallest smile. Finally. Dana's office was quiet and professional. She had a notebook open in front of her and gestured for me to sit. Emily, we're conducting a formal review into some workplace concerns, she said carefully. I need to ask you a few questions. I nodded. She asked about the loan. About the emails. About the deleted files. I answered calmly, clearly, with dates and details. Have other employees mentioned similar issues? I asked. Dana paused. We're speaking with several staff members. Over the next few days, HR quietly interviewed people across the office. Lisa was called in. She looked nervous when she came out, but she caught my eye and gave me a small nod. She'd told them everything. Jordan was interviewed too. When he came back to his desk, he looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact with Vanessa. HR told me to stay professional and not escalate. But I wasn't escalating. I was just telling the truth. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the temp Lisa had mentioned. The one Vanessa had scammed before me. I opened LinkedIn and searched through old company connections until I found her, Rachel Kim, a marketing intern from last year. I sent her a message. Hi Rachel, I'm reaching out because I work with Vanessa Cole. I'm sorry to ask, but did she ever borrow money from you? She replied within an hour. Oh my God, yes. She borrowed $800 and never paid me back. When I asked about it, she told people I was harassing her. I ended up leaving the company because of it. My stomach turned. This wasn't just about me. It was a pattern. I asked Rachel if she'd be willing to share her story with HR. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. I forwarded her messages to Dana anonymously using a secure email. The next morning, I saw Dana walking into Jordan's office with a thick folder. The investigation was growing. I was working quietly at my desk when Vanessa appeared in front of me. Her face was tight with anger, her voice low but venomous. I know what you're doing, Emily, she hissed. You think you're so clever, turning everyone against me. You'll regret this. I stood up slowly, meeting her eyes. My voice was calm, steady. No, Vanessa. I'm just telling the truth. She stepped closer, her face inches from mine. You're a snake. And you're a thief, I said quietly. Her eyes widened. For a moment, she looked like she might lash out. But then I saw it, a small red light blinking above us. The security camera. It had recorded everything. Vanessa followed my gaze and her face went pale. She turned and walked away quickly, her hands shaking. That afternoon, I received an email from HR, please report to conference room B tomorrow at 10 a.m. Vanessa Cole will also be present. The conference room felt cold. Dana sat at the head of the table, her expression neutral. Vanessa sat across from me, arms crossed, her face hard. Thank you both for coming, Dana began. We're here to address some concerns that have been raised. Vanessa jumped in immediately. This is ridiculous. Emily has been harassing me for weeks over a personal loan. I've done nothing wrong. Dana looked at her calmly. Is that your official statement? Yes, Vanessa said firmly. Dana opened her laptop. Then I'd like you to watch something. She turned the screen toward us. The footage was from yesterday, the security camera above my desk. Vanessa's voice came through clearly, you'll regret this. And then my calm response, I'm just telling the truth. Vanessa's face drained of all color. That's out of context. Dana closed the laptop. We also have emails, expense reports, and witness statements. This isn't about one loan, Vanessa. It's about a pattern. Vanessa's hands trembled. This is a witch hunt. Over the next week, the full picture emerged. HR compiled everything, the forged expense reports, the stolen credit for my work, the money she'd borrowed from Rachel and never returned. Witness after witness confirmed the same pattern. Manipulation. Lies. Exploitation. Jordan was called in and asked why he hadn't acted sooner. He admitted he'd been blinded by her charisma, and his leadership was formally questioned. Vanessa was placed on unpaid leave pending termination. The office felt lighter without her. People started talking more freely. One coworker admitted Vanessa had pressured her into covering shifts. Another said she'd taken credit for his client pitch. I sat at my desk, staring at my screen, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. It was over. A few days later, Jordan stopped by my desk. He looked uncomfortable, his hands in his pockets. Emily, I owe you an apology, he said quietly. I should have listened to you sooner. I let her charm blind me. I nodded. Thank you. For what it's worth, he added, the firm is officially crediting you for the client proposal. Your name is going on all the reports. It wasn't much. But it was something. That afternoon, I received an email from the executive team, thanking me for my professionalism and integrity. A week later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Emily, it's Vanessa. We need to talk. Please. I stared at the text for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, maybe the part that had lent her the money in the first place, felt curious. That evening, there was a knock at my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. It was Vanessa. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her eyes red and swollen. No designer bag. No confident smile. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What do you want, Vanessa? She swallowed hard. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. They repossessed the car. I'm facing legal trouble for the expense fraud. I lost everything. I said nothing. I know I don't deserve it, she continued, but I need a character reference letter. For my lawyer. Please, Emily. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I stepped aside. You should probably sit down. We sat in my small living room. Vanessa on the edge of the couch, me in the chair across from her. She looked so small now, so broken. I know what I did was wrong, she said quietly. I thought I could keep it all together. The car, the lifestyle. I thought if I looked successful, I'd feel successful. I didn't interrupt. I never meant to hurt you, she added. But I did, I said simply. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Emily, please. I need that letter. I'll pay you back, I swear, I held up my hand. Vanessa, I'm not writing that letter. Her face crumpled. But, you need to face what you did, I said firmly. I hope you learn from this. I really do. But I can't help you anymore. She stared at me, desperate, searching for any crack in my resolve. There was none. I stood and walked to the door. She followed slowly, defeated. I opened it and stepped aside. Goodbye, Vanessa. She walked out without another word. I closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. My phone buzzed. A message from HR. The email was short but significant. Emily, this is to inform you that Vanessa Cole's employment has been officially terminated for ethical violations. Additionally, as part of her restitution settlement, the company will be reimbursing you the $2,500. I read it twice, then a third time. Justice. Real, tangible justice. The next morning, I received a direct deposit notification. $2,500, returned in full. I transferred it back into my savings account and watched the balance climb. It felt like closing a chapter. A few days later, Jordan called me into his office again. This time, his expression was warm. Emily, the executive team was impressed with how you handled everything. We'd like to offer you a promotion, senior coordinator, with a salary increase. I blinked, stunned. Really? You earned it, he said, smiling. You showed integrity when it mattered most. That afternoon, I moved into my new desk by the window. Sunlight poured in, and for the first time in months, I felt genuinely hopeful. Weeks passed. My new role kept me busy, but in a good way. I was leading projects, collaborating with teams, and finally getting the recognition I deserved. One afternoon, I received a LinkedIn message from Sandra, the client from the big presentation. Hi Emily, I've been watching your work. We're looking for someone with your skill set at our firm. Would you be interested in discussing a role? I stared at the message, my heart racing. An offer. A real one. I didn't respond right away. I wanted to sit with it, to think about what I really wanted. That evening, I stood by my apartment window, looking out at the city lights below. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan, proud of you. Always. I smiled. The story could have ended here. But fate had one more twist in store. 3 months later, I was shopping for groceries after work. I turned down the customer service aisle and froze. There, standing behind the counter in a store uniform, was Vanessa. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. No designer anything. She looked up and our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Emily. I'm sorry. I saw the regret in her eyes, real and raw. She wasn't performing anymore. This was genuine. I took a breath and nodded slowly. I hope you're doing better, Vanessa. She blinked, surprised. Maybe she'd expected anger or coldness. But I didn't have any left. I'd already won. I turned and walked away, my cart rolling quietly over the linoleum floor. As I reached the end of the aisle, I glanced back once. Vanessa was still standing there, watching me go. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel bitter. I just felt free. Because kindness isn't weakness. It's just that some people mistake grace for permission until it's gone. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories like this one.